Pally makes over 1 million a year, and it's a really complex app that uses a lot of APIs to manage social media accounts. Now, to build such an app, it takes tens of people and thousands of dollars. But what if I told you that I managed to clone this exact app in under 20 minutes and without writing a single line of code? Instead of telling you, let me just show you how. Now, before we get into it, I want you to know that making an app like Pally is not easy. It has many advanced features like multi-platform scheduling, deep analytics, link in bio pages, and real-time team collaboration, and a lot more features. Now, building all of those things alone will take months of hard work, but I have a simple 5-step plan that makes the process of building such complex apps extremely simple. By the end of this video, you will learn exactly how to clone a complex app like Pally in under 30 minutes. Step 1. App idea. I don't only want you to learn how to clone this one single app. I want you to leave this video having mastered the art of building mobile apps using AI, so that you can also launch a viral app of your own. And the most important thing when building a successful mobile app is making sure that it's $1 million app idea. Because we are not just building apps for fun, we are building apps to make a lot of money from them. And to make sure our idea has the potential to go viral, it has to follow these 3 requirements. First, it must solve a common and emotional problem. Second, its core values can be explained in 3 words or less. And the third one is that it should be naturally shareable. And one of the best ways of finding such viral app ideas is through indiehackers.com, because this is a forum that shows behind the scenes of apps that are going viral right now. And the best part is that these apps are usually built by just one person. So all you have to do to beat them is just to make a slightly better app, which you will easily be able to do after this video. Now, after digging for a few minutes, I managed to find this post about how a single person managed to build an almost 1 million ARR business. And even further digging into the founder's social media platforms showed that the app has extremely low churn rate. So this app is clearly a hit. Step 2. Claude code setup. And now we can get into the fun part, which is actually building the app. I'm going to be using Claude Code, and more specifically the Opus 4.6 model, because right now it's the best in the market and it can understand vague context very precisely. So this way we don't need to put in a lot of work to correct minor mistakes. So now I'll open Claude Code in a blank folder and type in this prompt, which basically tells it to build the entire foundation using a specific tech stack, like React and TypeScript for the front end. And instead of Supabase, we're trying out InsForge for the backend. And by the way, I have pasted this exact prompt in the description, so just feel free to copy it from there. Okay, so now I'll hit enter and let Claude Code do its work, and after a few minutes it's done. As you can see, it made a clean, properly structured React TypeScript project with the routing configured, folder architecture in place, and every dependency installed and ready to go. Okay, now the foundation is solid from the start, which means that every feature that we build on top of it inherits that stability automatically. And this is exactly why starting with the architecture prompt matters so much, because when you give Claude Code a clear structural brief before asking it to build any features, it maintains the consistency across everything it makes forward. Okay, so now that the foundation is live, let's follow the steps that Claude Code instructed us to do. Step 3, the backend. To begin with, we will set up InsForge. And to do this, I will head over to the insforge.dev dashboard, go into my organization and create a new project. I'm calling it Pally Clone, but obviously just name yours whatever makes sense for your product. Okay, now once the project is created, click on the connect button in the top right corner, then go over to the API keys section and copy only the project URL and the anon key. Now do not paste the API key in your project just yet, because it's a very sensitive piece of information and you don't want this key to be leaked to your users. Okay, so once I've copied these keys, I will just paste them into my .env file and then it should be good to go. Now we'll also do the CLI connection so that Claude Code can make changes to our backend directly without us having to do it manually. Now copy this command first and let it run, and during the process it will open up a page on your browser just to authorize the InsForge linking with Claude Code. So now just click on authorize here, and when you go back to Claude Code, you will see that InsForge has connected with Claude Code successfully. Okay, now just copy these 2 commands one by one and Claude Code should be connected to your InsForge database. Next, we will run the npm run dev command in the normal command prompt so that we can test out the web app before we actually deploy it. So now that we have everything set up, we can start building. Step 4, authentication and onboarding. Okay, so the first thing we will build is the two main features of every single app in the world, the authentication and the onboarding. So I will just simply ask Claude Code to build those features and use InsForge as the backend to hold all of the information. And this is why it's essential to set up the backend before building even the most basic features of your app, because everything relies on the backend. So you need to make sure it's present at all times to not cause any problems. And after a few minutes now, it's done. So now if you load up the local host, you can see that everything is set up. And if we click on this button here, it leads to the registration page where we can connect a Google account or GitHub or register via email. For now, I'm going to register via email and see how the onboarding page looks like. And just look at this, it even added an email verification feature. So let me just put in the one-time password real quick. And wow, okay, so the onboarding page is very minimal yet effective. This is exactly how your onboarding process should be as well. It should only collect crucial information and not take up too much time of the user. And now that we are in, we can see the dashboard is ready. So right now it's empty since we haven't built anything yet. So let's build our first feature. Step 5, media library. Okay, so the first feature we are building now is the media library. If you open Pally and look at it for 30 seconds, you understand immediately why this is the right place to start. Pally is built entirely around content like images, videos and graphics. And the media library is where all of that content lives before it gets scheduled and published. It's basically the backbone of the entire app. So now I'll write a prompt asking Claude Code to build out this exact feature. And once again, I have reminded it to use InsForge as the backend database that holds everything together. And I also put this prompt in the video description so you can check it out there. Okay, so now it's done. And if we go back to our browser, you can now see that there's a media library section on the left-hand side. So now let's test it properly. I'll click on the upload button and select a photo, just a simple image of a coffee cup. Okay, so now it uploads and wow, within a second it appears within the grid without any page refresh and no manual reload of the page. It's just there exactly where it should be. And if I now click on the image itself, you can see that it opens a control panel on the right side, which remember I didn't even ask Claude Code to do. It just did it by itself because it's powered by the Opus 4.6 model, which is extremely smart and can understand the context without me having to be so specific all the time. Okay, so now the foundation for everything else is in place. Let's now build a feature that is the entire reason someone would pay for this product. Step 6, visual scheduler. This is the feature that the entire product exists to deliver. Everything we have built up to this point, the project foundation, the InsForge backend, the media library, it's all been the infrastructure. But the visual scheduler is the product and the reason why anyone will use and pay for this app. So let's be precise about what we actually need to build here, because a scheduler is a vague instruction and vague instructions just produce vague results. So what we need specifically is a calendar view that shows the full week or a month at a glance, with each day acting as a drop target for media assets from the library. So now a user should be able to drag an image or a video directly from the media library panel onto a specific date and time slot in the calendar. And it should fill in the post caption and select which connected social media account to publish on, and then have that scheduled post saved as a confirmed job in the InsForge queue. The calendar should then display a preview of that post on the date it's scheduled, so that the user can see the entire content plan laid out visually and spot gaps or conflicts immediately. Now before I write this prompt, I want to be upfront about something. Drag and drop in a web application sounds very straightforward, but it's genuinely one of the more technically complex UI interactions to implement correctly. But luckily Claude Code can reason about how to connect them, because the architecture makes the relationship very obvious. And once again, the prompt I'm pasting here is also written in the description, so just check it out. Okay, now we are done. It looks pretty good, but let me test out the full flow end to end, because this is the moment where we find out if the architecture decisions we made earlier were the right ones. I'll just drag a photo from the media library across to Thursday at 2 p.m. Okay, so the drag feels smooth and there's no lag. The image follows my cursor cleanly across the entire screen, and I just drop it into the Thursday slot. And as you can see, the schedule post panel opens immediately with the image already loaded in the preview. So in here I can type the caption, my account handle, and even schedule a more precise time to schedule the post. But actually I'm noticing something. If I now click anywhere on this calendar without dragging in an image, it won't let me schedule a post. So we need to cater our app for users who use those social medias too. Now this is really simple. I will just prompt Claude Code to allow users to click on the calendar without needing to drag any media from the media library to schedule a post. And the scheduled post panel should open, but without any media attached. And now that's done, and we can click inside the calendar to schedule a post without attaching any media to it. Perfect. And of course there still needs to be a backend authentication where users must connect their social media accounts with our Pally clone in order for the posts to actually go through. But that literally just takes one prompt for Claude Code, so I won't be doing that here. Now since I'm making this app for demo purposes, I'll move on to the next step, which is actually very important, and it's what makes Pally a lot better than competitors. Step 7, real-time collaboration. Right now what we have is a genuinely solid single user product, but Pally generates most of its revenue not from the the solo plans, but from the agency plans. The tiers where teams of 5, 10, 15 people are all working together inside the same workspace simultaneously. That's where the real money is in this category. So the feature that unlocks team plans and justifies charging significantly more per month is real-time collaboration. Just the ability for multiple people to be inside the same content calendar at the same time, seeing each other's changes as they happen, without anyone having to refresh the page or send a Slack message saying, hey, I just moved the Tuesday post, can you reload? And luckily with InsForge, so we don't have to set up a server and we don't have to write broadcast logic, and we don't even have to think about scaling any connections. We can just subscribe to the database table changes using the InsForge real-time client, and InsForge handles everything underneath that subscription automatically. So our job now is just to tell InsForge which table to watch and what to do when something changes. And here's exactly how I will implement it. So now let's go back into Claude Code and ask it to create a workspace feature in which it must add a real-time collaboration to the visual scheduler and media library features using InsForge's real-time client. And again, this exact prompt is in the description too. Okay, now it's done, and we can see that it has created a workspace section on the left side. So let me just create a workspace and invite my other account so I can show you what this looks like in practice. So I'll just open the app in two separate browser windows side by side, simulating two different team members. Now in the left window, I will create a post and schedule it for Wednesday. And in the right window, without touching anything, you can see that the postcard appears on Wednesday in real time. And that is the feature that justifies an agency plan. When you show this to a potential customer, someone like a social media manager, their reaction would be amazing. And remember, we did not write a single line of WebSocket code, and we did not have to create a server either. InsForge literally handled everything for us. Step 8, UI. Okay, now the app works exactly how we intended it to. The core features are built, and now we can build out the rest of the minor features to really finish up the MVP. But I'm not going to do that in this video, since the process is pretty similar, and it depends on what you want to do with your app and how you want to present it. So let's look at the next important thing, and it's the make or break for any app. I'm talking about the UI. Pally has a genuinely good design. It has a clean visual hierarchy, a sidebar that organizes the tools logically, and a calendar view that makes the content planning feel intuitive, and a color palette that feels professional. And that design is a meaningful part of why users trust it with their client work. So we need to match that standard, and we need to do it without spending 3 days in Figma designing from scratch. So the tool I usually use for this is Mobbin. Mobbin is a curated library of real UI screenshots from the top performing web and mobile apps. So it's basically the best platform to look at and use for any app that you are building, because you will 100% find the right UI inspiration in here. And the process is super simple. Just open Mobbin, and then you can search specifically for social media management and dashboard applications. And now in this search result, I'm looking for very specific visual patterns that the best tools in this space share. And now just within a few seconds of looking, I found this design that I think will work really well for our app. So I'm just going to take a screenshot of this and ask Claude Code to change the UI of our entire app to match this. Now we can just paste this directly into Claude Code, or what I'm going to do here is I'll paste this image into any AI chatbot and ask it to extract the UI components, style and design, and then give me a prompt to paste into Claude Code so it can replicate the UI for my app. So this is the prompt that I got from Opus 4.6, so I'm just going to paste this into Claude Code and then have it redo the entire UI of our Pally clone. Okay, now just look at this before and after. The app looks significantly better. It looks a lot more premium and ready to be launched to the public. And here's the deeper principle behind this step that I want you to carry forward in every app that you build after this one. We did not design anything, we just referenced a screenshot of what already works. And then we extracted the underlying visual logic, communicated this into Claude Code, and just let it translate this into our app. But you can just copy the screenshots from Mobbin and paste them directly into Claude Code. And this is not cheating or stealing at all. This is just the most efficient and the most reliable path to professional high quality design. And we didn't copy the design, we just used the other screenshots as inspiration to design our own design. Okay, so now the product looks exactly as good as it needs to look. Now let's make it generate actual revenue. Step 9, deployment. Okay, so now that everything is done, it's time to put our app onto the internet. So to do this, we're going to use Vercel. And the reason why Vercel is the right choice for a React-based web application is not complicated at all. So Vercel is very popular and it's purpose-built for exactly this type of project. It understands React applications natively, and it provides a global CDN so that your app loads fast for users anywhere in the world. And it's super easy to upload this to Vercel. Okay, but now the first thing that we need to do before deploying is to make sure the application application is genuinely production ready. So I will just ask Claude Code to do a production readiness audit. So this prompt is in the description too, so you can just use this prompt to audit your app as well. And now that Claude Code has made our app production ready, now we can start the deployment process. So I will just head over to vercel.com and click on add new project, and then just connect your GitHub repository. And if you've been following along and haven't pushed the code to GitHub yet, do that first just by prompting Claude Code. Just say something like, I want to push this project to GitHub, how do I do this? Okay, now with the repository connected, Vercel will now automatically detect that it's a React application, and it will pre-configure all of the build settings correctly. But the one thing that we need to configure manually is the environment variables. So what we'll do now is just to go to the env file in our project, and then just paste this into the Vercel's project settings. And now with the environment variables saved, just click on deploy, and our app will now be officially live. And it should be working exactly like it did in our local host. Okay, so I'm currently using a free domain given by Vercel, which you also will get, but I strongly recommend buying your own custom domain when publishing your app to the public. And also some of my pages aren't completed yet because this is just a demo, but make sure that your app at least reaches the MVP stage before you publish it. Okay, but now keep in mind, everything that we have done up to this point has been building. All of the building was just a preparation for this moment. It's now time to build a growth engine for this app, because just building the app is not enough. That was only the foundation. We now need to get this app in front of people so that we can start getting users, and especially paid users, so we can actually make money from this. And I want to be precise about this, not just any generic advice that could apply to any SaaS application out there, but a strategy engineered about what we already know about Pally's market and Pally's actual weaknesses, and a specific type of user who would switch from Pally to our product. Okay, now let's start with what Pally actually does for their distribution, because understanding their playbook is the foundation of building a better one. So Pally's primary acquisition channel is via SEO. Their documentation is extensive and keyword rich, and they've also built a meaningful domain authority over years of consistent content production. And they also have a generous free tier that functions as a top of funnel acquisition mechanism. So the users discover the product through search, and then they sign up for free, and then they experience the scheduler, and finally they convert to paid when they hit their free tier limits. And that model works, and apparently it works well enough to generate nearly $1 million a year with a small team. But there are very clear gaps in how Pally approaches their distribution, and those gaps are exactly where we come in. So Pally has almost no video presence, their YouTube channel is minimal and infrequently updated, they have no meaningful TikTok or short form video strategy, and their Twitter engagement is sporadic. So for a product that is fundamentally visual, the absence of video content is a significant gap in the market, because the best way to sell a visual product is to show it. And right now, nobody in this space is doing that well. So the first and most immediate distribution channel we should target is social media presence. So we need to make sure that our app has a company account in every major social media platform, especially YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And then we will ask Opus 4.6 to generate high quality promotional posts for Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn content. And for YouTube, later you could hire someone to record promotional content for you. And focusing on all of these will help our app grow even bigger than Pally, because we get to target an audience that they never even managed to reach. And we can then use our own Pally clone to schedule all of the posts on different social media platforms. And also doing that with our own app just gives even more credibility, because if we use our own product, other people also trust the product and end up using it themselves. Okay, now the second marketing channel is via SEO, and the approach here is even more surgical than what Pally is doing. So rather than trying to compete with Pally's existing domain authority on broad keywords like social media scheduler, we should target the specific long tail searches that indicates a user who is already evaluating alternatives to Pally specifically. And these searches exist because Pally has real weaknesses that real users already complain about. I already did the research before this, and the most consistent complaints about Pally across G2, Trustpilot, Reddit, and the indie hackers community fall into these three categories. The mobile experience is weak, the analytics depth is limited compared to enterprise tools, and the pricing jump between tiers feels steep for small agencies who need the team features but do not need the full agency plan. And those three complaints are three SEO content opportunities. So we can take advantage of this by creating a page titled something like Best Pally Alternative for Teams that speaks directly into small agencies who need collaboration features without high costs. And for example, a page named Pally versus and then our product name is also a great option, where we honestly compare both tools, but just give central emphasis to specific areas where we win. And this strategy of creating pages as competitors to the original tool is very normal to do. Big companies like Lovable and Bolt and all of those AI app builders already does this with each other. And now each of those pages that you make is targeting a user who is already in the market, who's already evaluating options, and they're already primed to make a purchase decision. And this is the highest value search traffic that exists, and it's available to a new product from day one, because established players rarely create content that directly invites comparison with themselves. So just write these blog marketing pages from day one before you even have a significant amount of users. Because SEO compounds over time, which means that a page published today is more valuable than a page that is identical but published 6 months from now. The mistake that most builders make is waiting until they feel like they have something worth promoting before they even start creating the content. And by that point, they have left 6 months of compounding domain authority on the table. So I highly advise that you start a content clock the same day the product goes live. And now the third channel is Reddit. And the strategy here is identical to what I described in the Base 44 video, but it's just the specific communities that are different. So let me be precise. For a social media scheduling tool, I would say that the relevant subreddit communities are social media, marketing, entrepreneur, small business, and just start. These are communities where social media managers, small business owners, and solo founders post questions about tools, workflows, and recommendations. So you could search those communities right now for threads mentioning any companies like Pally, Buffer, Later, or Hootsuite, and you will find that people are asking for alternatives, or that they're complaining about pricing or trying to decide between different options. And those exact threads are great distribution opportunities. So now if you just go and answer these thread comments honestly, helpfully, and with genuine expertise, and you explain the trades-off between different platforms, demonstrate that you understand the problem deeply, and mention your product only when it's genuinely the right answer to the specific question being asked. I think that authenticity is what makes Reddit distribution work, because the moment that you start posting in a way that feels promotional, the community will start hating on you. But the moment that you start posting in a way that genuinely feels helpful, the community will reward you with upvotes, traffic, and signups to your platform. And you can actually set up a Reddit monitoring workflow using a free tool called F5bot, and it will send you an email notification every time that one of your specified keywords appears in a new Reddit post or in a comment. So you can set up alerts for Pally alternative, or social media scheduler alternative, or something like best scheduler for agencies. And you can also include the name of your main competitors. And the response time advantage matters here, because threads that gets answered within the first hour consistently gets more engagement and more upvotes than threads answered later, which then means that showing up fast compounds the impact of every response that you give. Okay, now the fourth distribution channel is one that is almost completely unused in the social media tool category, despite being perfectly suited to it. And it's product-led content marketing. Here's the insight. Our product, by its nature, produces outputs that are inherently shareable and inherently impressive. A beautifully organized content calendar with 30 posts scheduled across Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and TikTok for the next month looks genuinely impressive to anyone who manages social media manually. And even just a screenshot of our real-time collaboration feature, where two cursors are moving simultaneously on the same calendar, is visually striking and immediately communicates a capability that most people didn't even know was possible. So now, knowing this, you can build a sharing mechanism directly into the product. For example, at the end of each month, you can generate a shareable summary card for each user, something like March content calendar, 47 posts scheduled, 12 platforms covered, and 23 hours saved. And then just assign it to look premium. Brand it subtly with your product logo, and make it one-click shareable to Twitter and LinkedIn. And then potentially the user shares it because it makes them look organized and professional to their network. This is basically the Spotify Wrapped mechanic applied to a B2B tool. And it works in this category for the exact same reason as why it works for Spotify. People are genuinely proud of their output and just want to show it off publicly. And don't forget that Pally took years to reach $1 million in ARR, but with the distribution infrastructure that we just designed, a solo builder like you with this exact product and this exact strategy can compress that timeline significantly. Not because the product is dramatically better, but because the distribution is way more deliberate. And honestly, distribution will bring you 90% of the money compared to the actual product. And just like that, we cloned an award-winning app using Claude code, Mobbin, and InsForge in just a few minutes. And we even came up with an entire marketing strategy that will for sure bring tons of users and revenue if executed properly. So now take the framework from this video and apply it to the idea that you have been sitting on. And once you have built the app, just ship it. And if you want to see more, here's a video I recently made about exactly how to copy an app, generating over $10,000 per month. Thank you for watching, and as always, happy building.